Hey, everybody. This is Joshua Littrell. Thank you so much for tuning into the Veterans for Cannabis podcast today. Today, I'm joined by another military brother, James J.J. Johnson. Master Sergeant Johnson, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. JJ,
Good,
if you don't
good.
mind, give the listeners a little sense of where you're at geographically located in the country.
Well, originally born and raised in Mobile, Alabama, but I'm currently residing in Oklahoma City, right by a small city called Tulsa, I'm sorry, not Tulsa, Tuttle, Oklahoma.
Tuttle. Tuttle,
Yeah,
Oklahoma.
Tuttle. Yes,
Nice. So where in regards is that to Tinker Air Force Base is out in Oklahoma, right?
that's correct. Tinker is out here in Oklahoma. It's about 25 minutes from Tinker.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah.
So, JJ, we get really excited about the guests that we have here on the Veterans for Cannabis podcast, and today I'm extremely excited because first and foremost, you're a brother of mine from the Air Force, man. That's
That's
really
right.
exciting. Let's talk
That's
about that a
right.
little bit because we were both medics, and I'm doing my
Yeah.
air quotes as I say medics because I was a bioenvironmental engineer,
All right. Oh,
which
yeah.
we are the bastard stepchild of the medical group. You know that. So you're a
Hashtag
little bit
fact.
different. That's right. Tell us what you did in the Air Force.
Well, I started off, in the Air Force. I started off as a medical laboratory technician. I did
Okay.
that for my first about 2.5, 3 years, and then I left, and I was a drill sergeant for 5 years. Most people call it, Military Training Instructor or MTI. Molded mines for 5 years for basic training, and then I came back, medical for about 4 years, and then I cross-trained to be a flight engineer on C-130s in the Air Force. So I spent my
Nice.
last about 6.5, 7 years as a FE on C-130s.
Did you punch at 20 or did you do more?
I punched at 21. I planned on staying,
Nice.
till 24. Made it to, Master Sergeant. Had goals and ambitions of making chief. But, certain politics and, certain supervisors along the way, their differing opinions come back on those EPRs. And I just felt like it was time for me, to move on to greener pastures. And I knew that whether I did 2 years or 20 years, or 30 years, at some point I had to move on. So I just decided to kind of take the bull by the horns and go ahead and, punch and figure life out, afterwards. And it's been great.
That is so perfect, man. I absolutely love it. So you got out of the military, did 21 years, and
Hmm.
you have found yourself in the cannabis industry. How in the
Yeah.
world did you and I, two Air Force guys that didn't have any cannabis experience, now find ourselves in the cannabis industry? How does this happen, JJ?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, you could probably relate to this a little bit. I retired from the military, and then I had my VA benefits as well. So life was pretty good. But then I had a buddy of mine, who I had known from my time in the military. He was a civilian himself, but he came to me and he said, "Hey, I got an idea. There's a company that I want to get started, and I need somebody to have my back." And that right there was enough to get me, off the bench and into the game, because I'm like, hey, what do you got? What do you got going on? Because I needed something to keep my senior NCO brain busy,
That's right.
To some degree. And he said, well, I'm putting together this company to help farmers figure out how to grow hemp. And then as soon as he said hemp, man, all you heard was skrrr. I mean, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, but the ink's not even dry on my retirement paperwork. You try to get me involved with weed. What's going on,
We don't say that word, JJ.
Yeah, I know, for real, and but that was my mindset at that point in time, because I was so
Right.
naive to what
Right.
it was at that point. And once he explained to me what it was, I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool, no problem. And then from there, we put together an organization trying to help the farmers here in Oklahoma figure out how to get the permits for growing industrial hemp here in Oklahoma. But as I interacted with those farmers, and going back to, my military time, it's like you lead from the front. It's easy to get on a phone with someone and get paperwork from them to be able to complete an application. But
That's
to go
right.
out, meet those people, shake their hands, look them in the eyes, know what their needs are, learn about their families, learn about where they come from, these fifth generation farmers that are trying to get this thing done for the first time. And I saw a bunch of people who needed my help. They
Mhm.
needed more than somebody to just be a freaking voice, over the phone when they need paperwork done. So
Right.
I started learning more about the process, and what that led to was it led to me learning a lot of the basics within the hemp industry that these farmers are trying to figure out when they first get started. So by figuring that out, I was able to take that and turn it into a hemp 101, so to speak, for that farmer who's just getting in the game and trying to figure out, what's this THC stuff in this plant? What
Right.
levels are allowed? What's the difference between high CBD plants versus plants that are grown for industrial fiber? Just that myriad of things that comes along with the plant, and so many things that people don't know. I'm able to take that now. That Oklahoma concept has grown. People started hitting me up in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, as well as South Dakota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. So, I have a broad reach now, and I go and travel, from state to state from time to time, and I do my Hemp 101s and really help people understand what they're getting into and actually care about these farmers versus being that broker joker guy who's just getting in contact with them trying to make a buck. I like making sure that these farmers know what they're getting into, what's going to be involved, so they don't pick the wrong size acreage to get started with.
That is so awesome. So, when you look at a new farmer that's coming on board, what are some of the questions? Are you interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you to be a consultant for them?
Oh, definitely, definitely. We're, and it really doesn't start off, being in a consultant role. It starts off with, I need some help.
Sure.
And me, I'm like, what you got? What do you have? What do you need? And we just start, going back and forth, talking about general things within the industry. And then I release them into the wild. That's the crazy thing about it. There's no NDAs involved. There's no contracts involved. I give them some general information, and then I let them go. I don't try to hold on to them. And then what I find by doing that is a lot of times when they're ready to go and they need seed and they're hearing all these horror stories about non-feminized seed, feminized seed, clones, seedlings, they'll come back to me and they'll say, hey, you gave me some rock solid information before. Where do I need to go to get seed? Or, hey, I have this land. You gave me some rock solid information. Who can help me come in and figure out how to grow this crop and do it right? So that's when they start hitting me up for other things that they need or could want. And then that's when the relationship kind of grows into a consultation role more so.
Nice. That's a completely different approach that most everybody else takes. They
Yes, sir.
all, it's the NDA, just like you said. It's, hey, let's get things papered up. Let's move forward, rock and roll, and go from there. And I tell people all the time, they're like, why don't you charge? Because they do the same thing, JJ. They ask me, well, for help. And look, especially in our community, our brothers and sisters that
Exactly.
we served with, that's my main
Exactly.
objective. From the
Exactly.
Veterans for Cannabis standpoint, that's all we are really focused on is helping them get in the industry, helping them get started, and then rocking
Yes,
and
sir.
rolling.
Because
And
just like I do, and sorry to cut you off, but
no,
just
no,
like I do in the military, we had a salary. So that
right.
salary that we had, we didn't have to worry about having to add to that salary because we knew we had that money coming in regardless. Well, I was fortunate enough to make it to retirement, and my retirement income isn't great, but it's enough to keep the wolves off.
Right.
So it allows me the freedom to worry about people rather than a paycheck.
That's right. And that's a huge difference, and that's what
Hmm.
drives us. It drives you and I to help our brothers and sisters out and help just make this world a better place, right? I mean, we didn't
Definitely.
sign on the dotted line for our country to turn around and treat her like crap. So
Correct.
I applaud you and the way that you approach it and approaching it with integrity first, just our Air Force core values. That's
There you
all you're
go.
doing.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's the way I approach it. And I think that's the way our organization approaches it as well. That's what we take that stance from the top down. If we
Yes.
implement that, then we're going to make the world a better place.
Yes.
The thing that nobody really talks about and we really focus on is that new mission in life after they get out of the military. And we're
Hmm.
trying to show them that new mission can include and should include cannabis, whether it's hemp or medical cannabis or some sort of ancillary benefit associated with it. It doesn't matter. Just get involved with it because it can be medicine, it can be food, it can be fiber, it can be so many
Correct.
different things, right?
It
How
really
can
can.
we help expand into the out processing part of it from
Well,
the active duty
the
side?
from the active. So are you? So basically, you're saying how can someone coming off of active duty service transition into something like this and be successful with it?
Yeah, but how can we get the message out to them while they're making that transition? How can we get them set up so it's a smooth transition for them?
I'm laughing not because your question is funny. I'm laughing because this answer might get me in trouble.
I like we ask the tough questions here on the Veterans for Cannabis
No,
podcast.
hey, I'm all about it, brother. Bring it. I honestly feel like what it's gonna take is it's gonna take us being able to get on the installations and bring and talk about the message of cannabis and what it really is and what it really does and the benefits of the plants. That's what it's going to take. Whether you take somebody who does a full ride, 20 plus years, or you get somebody who does, 2 or 4 years and getting ready to separate. We're all supposed to go through some type of transition assistance program briefing, for your branch of service to be able to know everything about your veteran benefits. Well, just like I do, a few days is resume writing, which is awesome if somebody's planning on going into the corporate world. But if somebody's not going into the corporate world and they're looking for more things of an entrepreneurial standpoint, some of the information can be kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, out of date in terms that they provide, to veterans. So it's going to take somebody like you or I who's actively involved within this industry to go in and stand in front of our own brothers and sisters and say, hey, I'm a vet. I was sitting there just like you did. I had certain questions and certain wonders and certain doubts. And what I plan on doing is not only do I plan on educating them on cannabis, but I'm also going to talk to them about their VA benefits myself. I know that there's somebody that comes in and talks about VA, but let me tell you what I went through. Let me tell you my struggle and what I had to do to get to where I'm at on my benefits right now. By sharing that story, I'm going to let them know that I care about them. I'm going to bring them in with the veterans side of the, with the VA benefits. And then from there, slowly transition, or maybe even give out some freaking samples, of some, there's a product line that I'm getting ready to launch, or I'm about to acquire. It's called Active Duty RX. And being able to take a product like that and give it to some vets, I know the active duty folks, and that's the real pisser for me is that I can't give it to my active duty brothers and sisters, the ones who are on the lines every day. But, if I can get something, to the upcoming veterans, so that they can start having some exposure and they can gain that clarity and focus, while taking a product as they're transitioning. Because I'm telling you straight up, when you retire and it sucks. I mean, it's no secret. I have PTSD and it's combat related. And I had a lot of issue with leaving my house for 2 months when I first retired from the military. I really did. And slowly started, making my way out of the house. But I always wonder what my life would have been like had I have known about products like this when I first retired from the military. And no, I don't get high. I'm not a pothead or anything like that. It's just that I know the medicinal benefits of the cannabis plant minus the THC. And there are so many people who are misinformed about that one aspect right there, that if we can start working with that mindset to let people know that we actually care about them, they will come around to us on their own versus everybody trying to shove all of this stuff down their throats.
Well, I know that I need to get you up to D.C. with us when we do some of the advocacy and walking around knocking on the senators and representatives' doors, because they have to hear it, over and over and over again. And unfortunately, I don't know if you're aware, but I'm sure you are, the DOD just put the new directive out that CBD, even isolated CBD, is not legal.
Yes.
That is frustrating as hell.
Dude,
and it's ridiculous.
You have no idea. It's retarded. I'm just going to say it. It's retarded.
No, it is.
And if and I can't, how do I put it best? It's a bunch of people that are uninformed. I don't want to say that they're bad people. They're just uninformed because they've been enslaved to a certain way of thinking. And back in 1937, when this was put on, Controlled Substances Act, and there was a big scandal that went down. And by the way, I'm gonna put a pitch in for good old Jack Herer. There's a book written by a gentleman called Jack Herer called "The Emperor Wears No Clothes," and it puts the full what's the word I'm looking for? It lets you know everything that was involved over the years with the cannabis plant. And people need to go read that for themselves, because depending upon someone's visual limitation, they might not get the message coming from me that I'm standing in front of them preaching. But if I can put a book in front of them that says, here, go read this. Here are the references for that